Good morning from Southern California, everyone. Glad to at least get together and get to chat some and share some of these ideas. As many of you know, I'm kind of on a wandering right now. I'm in the temple in Hollywood for this morning's lecture and have been enjoying my time with the monks down here. Just such a great group of really togetherness, I guess, is what I'm focusing on, what I'm thinking about. You know, we get together for our practice and get together for our readings. And one of the readings that we've had in the last couple of weeks is from a book from Swami Chidbrahmananda called Glimpses of a Great Soul. And there was a paragraph in there that I was very interested in, and I thought that I would turn that into a discussion or to a lecture, and so I wanted to share that with you this morning. He says, in the language of Kamalakanta, O Mother, thou hast taken a personal form to receive my worship, but my true form is formlessness. Swami Chidbrahmananda wrote, O Sadhaka, if you worship the Divine Mother with purity of your heart, fixing your gaze on the Star of Renunciation, and meditate on her effulgent form with steadfast devotion and intense faith, you too will, in time, be blessed with her vision. All your desires then will attain their supreme consummation. Sri Ramakrishna has given you the great assurance that the Mother comes to those who worship her with childlike simplicity and have absolute trust in her, waiting patiently for her grace. That is one of those power-packed paragraphs that contains everything that you need to know in order to successfully cross this ocean of life, to really find a joyful way of living, to find a peaceful way of living, to find a way of living that promotes growth, authenticity, realness, and a fullness of experience of life, and a walk with the Divine Beloved. I'm always reminded in Micah in the Old Testament, when God says, what does God require? What do I require of you? But that you enjoy your work and walk humbly with your God. And keeping those two things in mind has really been a focus in life, to enjoy the work that the Divine has given me to do, what's in front of me at the moment, and to walk humbly with the Beloved in a companionship, a friendship. And of course, that idea grows significantly as you go along in life. At first, you almost feel like you're imagining a friend that's come along the way. And a lot of people, like to ridicule that about religion. But the magic of that relationship happens when the idea of God expands beyond the mind. And everything that you touch and see and encounter in a day begins to take on his character, begins to take on a little bit of that flavor of love, of purpose, of meaning, of depth, trying to take examples from what happens in a day and to create spiritual experiences from them, to create spiritual insights from them, to grow and understand more and more that every step you take is a step in a dance with the Divine Beloved. And it really adds such a wonderful existence, depth to existence, such a wonderful richness to the experience of being. And in this paragraph, he's talking about fulfilling all of our desires, that our desires will have their, what's he call it, their supreme consummation, which means the supreme fulfillment, a supreme contentment comes out of the instructions he gives here. He says that we are to worship the Divine Mother with a purity of heart. When you look for the word purity or do a search on it, in any of the world's religions, it is a fundamental requirement for a healthy relationship with the Divine. It's really when I say it like that, when we say for a healthy relationship with the Divine, that may not resonate with everyone. It's a healthy, when you think about what is the divine, well, all things are divine. It's a healthy, resonating relationship with life itself, with being, with getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth. The divine will be there. That spark will take a meaningless act like you're brushing your teeth and can turn it into a wonderful, playful, divine worship, when you sit there and understand or begin to take the idea into your mind that you're brushing the beloved's teeth, and to remove your sense of ego, your sense of I, playfully for a moment, and brush the beloved's teeth as you would, in fact, do it, with that intimacy and that playfulness together, that only a divine love, only a growing understanding of unconditioned love could allow. And add that to life itself. So I wanted to break down this statement that he makes here and talk about each of the parts. He says to worship the Divine Mother with purity of heart. So we're going to look at that for a moment. Fixing your gaze on the Star of Renunciation. What a fantastic way of talking about renunciation. Your gaze on the Star of Renunciation. That gives a wonderful flavor and turn to the idea that quite often we have somewhat of a distaste for, because renunciation seems so stern, and so it's denying what we want, it seems, and takes away our favorite toys. But to hear it spoken of like this, to gaze on the Star of Renunciation, that puts that idea of inspiration there. That puts the idea of wonder into it as you look at the nighttime sky and you find that Star of Renunciation, and you just gaze longingly at it in wonder. Because healthy renunciation, mature renunciation, is a great joy. It's a gateway to contentment and happiness, actually. So they're going to gaze at the Star of Renunciation and meditate on her effulgent form. So what is it to meditate on the Divine Mother's effulgent form, that self-luminous form, with steadfast devotion and intense faith? So we're going to take each one of those pieces one at a time and look at them. And what are the promises? I always like to collect the divine promises, because those are the things that build faith. Those are the things that I like to add to my spiritual bank account, as it were, to know and have confidence that these things are given to me by grace, by my divine right, as a creation that carries within me the divine spark that is the beloved himself or herself. So what are those promises? The promises he's making to us is that all of your desires will then attain their supreme consummation, that Thakur has given you great assurance that the Mother comes to those who worship her with childlike simplicity and absolute trust, those who wait patiently. So that vision of the Divine Mother, that vision of God, that consummation of all that you're looking for, all of the seeking and all of the hungers, which implies the eradication of all of your fears, all of your insecurities, all of your traumas. It talks about a resolution that brings this uneven, choppy ocean of life into a calm, placid experience of the vision of the beloved, of love everywhere, a resolution of all the things wrong with the world. Incidentally, the same resolution of all the things, quote, wrong with you in the seeming way as we identify with body and mind in this world. So on this purity of heart, Swami Vivekananda did a lecture called Christ the Messenger. And he touches on this idea just a little bit. He says, these are not all necessary for salvation, wealth, position, or power, not even learning. But what is necessary is that one thing, purity. Blessed are the pure in heart, for the spirit in its own nature is pure. And this is the beautiful thing, that this purity is not something that you have to acquire. It's something you have to realize, something you have to come to accept by letting go of your grasping nature, a nature that's based on the limited, that's based on the small idea of yourself. To let go of that idea, so that the grasping hands can stop trying to find purchase in this insecure, ever-changing world, so that your sense of self doesn't become dependent on good days and bad days, on conditions of all sorts, so that your fulfillment doesn't depend on these makeshift pieces that you gather that disappear, that are constantly needing to be replaced, but that you will find in yourself that steady and pure light that is your awareness. the fact that you're always aware, that you always exist. This is that purity. This is that truth. This is that diamond at the heart of the universe. That is the image of God that you've been blessed with. That you are the I am. That existence, this present moment, is yours, given to you in love, of love, by love. That is the purity that we have to accept and open to and come to depend on, come to grow in our awareness of it by clearing out the things that we're grasping at, by clearing out the symbols of all of our desires and understanding that they are symbols and treating them like symbols, and to stop our craving for them, but instead grab what they symbolize, which is this shining inner purity, this shining inner love that is our divine spark. The spirit in its own nature is pure. How can it be otherwise? It is of God. It has come from God. In the language of the Bible, it is the breath of God. That when God created the first man, Adam, he breathed his life, he breathed his spirit into Adam. And I like to play with that idea and to think that every time I inhale, that this body inhales, that again is God breathing that breath of life, the spirit, into me, renewing me every breath, keeping his I am present in me as alive, as a manifestation of his power and his wonder. And to make sure that my life aligns with that idea of power and wonder, that I don't go to sleep to those things because they're ordinary, because they're so consistent, but that I again become aware of that wonder and that power in the existence of the beloved within me, and allow that purity of that form, the nature of being absolutely content without need or grasping, to let that come alive again within us, that we stop growing old in that way, that we remain like a child in that way, full of wonder, always appreciating the beauty and grandeur of the divine, always ready to dance and to play with the beloved in this thing called life. It is the breath of God. In the language of the Quran, it is the soul of God. Do you mean to say that the Spirit of God can ever be impure? But alas, it has been, as it were, covered over with the dust and dirt of ages through our own actions, good and evil. You know, when we're living in a body and we believe it to be ourselves and we look to it for our fulfillment, that's what makes everything temporary and small. And that's what makes everything not enough. Because God, which is the wholeness of everything that you see, touch, hear, taste, smell, and beyond, can only be sipped through the 5 straws of the senses. And imagine trying to take the infinite ocean in through 5 straws. It's impossible to do. It's impossible to do. And so you, a divine being who needs nothing less than infinite glory, infinite power, infinite wonder, infinite knowledge, infinite existence, how will you be able to sip a cupful of that through the 5 straws of your senses? No, this divinity is self-aware. It's something not in your senses. You have to lift your eyes off of those senses, as it were, for just a moment and intuit your face. Intuit the fact that you have a face that you've never seen. You've only seen its reflection, but you know it's there. You have to intuit this presence of the divine, this purity, this infinity that is within you, to not forget, to not let such an astounding thing become ordinary, become white noise in the background of your ever-changing life when you've placed it in the body. Various works which were not correct, which were not true, have covered the same spirit with the dust and dirt of the ignorance of ages, It is only necessary to clear away the dust and dirt, and then the Spirit shines immediately. So this dust and dirt, what is it? It's your personality. It's my personality. It's the things of the material world that we love and cherish, that we somehow see the reflection of God in them and collect them unto ourselves. And because they're temporary and fleeting, we want to hold on to them. And so I always like to remember that things that you put in your memory are the things you wanted to share your immortality with. You wanted them to last beyond the moment. They've become your attachments. They've become the dust and the dirt that prevent you from seeing the I am clearly in this moment. They are the things that have prevented you from understanding your inner purity. They are the things that make you feel cheap or dirty. They are the things that make you feel shame. They are the things that make you feel remorse and regret. They are the things that continually keep you shifting uncomfortably in your chair, thinking you need more. If only I had this. If only I knew that. If only I could achieve this. If only people would think this about me or know this about me. That's the dirt. That's the dust of the unknowing ignorance of the ages that it's taken you to build this false idea of yourself. This pile of material trash that you sit on as king of nothing. That's the dirt that keeps life from being wonderful. That's the dirt that keeps you from being secure, that keeps you from being santosh, supremely content inside. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Why? Because he just told us that if you remove these attachments, if you remove these misunderstandings, which he says in the sentence just before, that these are the things that are untrue, that you've accepted them because you didn't look close enough, you didn't pay enough attention to it to understand that it didn't fulfill you, that it only distracted you for a moment. That's the nature of this world. That's the nature of the refuge that this world provides. It can only provide you with a distraction for a moment, to put away your pain and your insecurities, your ignorances, to hide from them for a moment. But they always come back, because none of the solutions offered by this material world can last. This is something you have to dig through, this crust of untrue things that you've held on to, that you've banked on. And you say, what untrue things have I banked on? Well, think about how much your house cost. How many hours of work did that require of you? How much did your car cost? How many hours of investment did that require of you? Think of your reputation. How much careful acting and speaking and movements of many kinds did that take to establish? How much time have you invested in your comforts, your TVs, your vacations, your drinkings, your partyings? How much time, how much money, how much of life have you invested in those things? They are the dirt. They are the untrue things that prevent you from shining in your purity, in your self-owned contentment and bliss. Think about how many hours you have spent building untrue things into a dust pile. And then when you come and have to spend an hour or two a day in meditation, there's nothing but complaints. Oh, I can't possibly do that. Oh, yes, I can spend 10, 14, 16 hours a day to build my impurity. But how much time am I willing to spend in revealing my nature, my inner gift, my inner ownings from grace, from that divine spark? These are why the sages tell us to wake up, because it's a shocking condition that we spend so much time nurturing our delusions and become so proud of a fragment of time that we spend trying to undo them. So this purity of heart with which we can approach the mother without fear, that we can approach the mother in pure, authentic intimacy, knowing that everything is okay, and more than okay, everything is divine. Where do you go to seek for the kingdom of God, asks Jesus of Nazareth, when it is there within you? Cleanse the spirit, and it is there. It is already yours. How can you get what is not yours? It is yours by right. You are heirs of immortality, sons of the eternal Father. This is, this is what makes it all so amazing, is that it is already there. It is already yours. You just have to solve the riddle. Removing all of these things that you've invested in, being willing to let go of all these things that you're clutching onto for just a moment to catch a breath of this freshness that is yours already. It's not something that has to be constructed, because all constructed things will fail. It's not something that has to be composed, because everything composed decomposes. This is a rudimentary element of being, upon which everything else stands. Remove this. Return to the purity of your heart, and let the song of the divine be heard in you by everyone. Become a gift to the world by shining out that immortal purity of compassion, of grace, of forgiveness, of love, of service. Become what you have always been created to be, that shining star of God purely shining through a body and through a mind as a blessing to this seeming creation. How can you get what is not yours? It is yours by right. You are not a beggar for these things. You're begging your own self to break your habits. You're begging your own self to stop grasping onto meaningless things. You're begging your own self for the strength to do it. You're begging your own self for the will to have it happen. Stop begging yourself and start treating yourself properly, worshiping that divine self within, by giving it the strength that it needs to carry out its practice, by giving it the resolution that it needs to be strong in its perspectives, to stay at the center of the path. Give yourself that resolution. Give yourself permission to be pure, to give up the things that you've invested so much time in that are untrue. Give yourself that permission and approach the Divine Mother in the purity of heart. Swami Vivekananda wrote another great lecture, or gave another great lecture called Krishna. He says, how to attain purity living in this life? Well, that's our question. Shall we all go to the forest caves? So is it going to require some renunciation like that? Do we all have to run to the Himalayas? Do we all have to run to the Rocky Mountains? What good would it do? If the mind is not under control, it is no use living in a cave, because the same mind will bring all disturbance there. You see, wherever you are, there you are. That's why it's not things and places that bring you happiness. Things and places bring distraction. We confuse that with happiness. We think, oh, if I was there, if I could live in the jungle, if I could live on a desert island, or if I could live in the mountains, if I, and round it goes. But in fact, the condition of the mind that you have now is the condition of you, seemingly, in this karmic tangle that you've managed to get yourself into. Wherever you are, there you are. Do not think that controlling and changing conditions is going to bring about this change, that you'll have one great renunciation when you turn 65 and then you'll go to the cave and somehow realize God. You never have anything but this moment. If you're counting on something outside of this moment, you're counting on a phantom. Here and now is where this decision happens. Here and now is where you'll find your joy and your bliss and your purity. Here and now is where you'll find all that you're looking for. If you're involving imagined other moments, either in the past or in the future, you have nothing. There's nothing there to help you. This moment is yours. This moment is God. And outside of this moment, there is nothing. So what you do with this moment is of paramount importance, because it's all you have and all that you will ever have. Be pure in your worship of the Divine Mother in this moment. It is no use living in a cave, because the same mind will bring all disturbance there. We will find 20 devils in the cave, because all the devils are in the mind. If the mind is under control, we can have the cave anywhere, wherever we are. And that's the ideal. Turn your mind into that holy cave of the sadhu. Turn your mind into an authentic place of integrity, so that your yes will be yes and your no will be no, so that you'll have a single face to all people and not be some duplicitous person. Someone who's nice in this crowd and nice in that crowd, but doesn't tell anybody about that crowd and doesn't tell anybody about these activities, and lives in constant fear of being discovered. People will know who I really am. Then what? Be who you really are, and then you don't have to fear people finding out about it. Be what you are, and continually search for what that is. Because at this moment, you have no idea. You have no idea. You think that all of these untrue and impure pieces of dust and clay that you've molded a personality called you, that's what you would describe. If I said, write me a paragraph about yourself, what would you write? It'd be a good exercise to do it and understand that probably most of what you wrote is a description of the dirt and dust that prevents you from being what you are. Be free of the things you think you are. Stop thinking about it altogether, and let that inner divine light shine, unrestricted. It is our own mental attitude which makes the world what it is for us. Our thoughts make things beautiful. Our thoughts make things ugly. The whole world is in our own mind. Learn to see things in the proper light. That's what we're going for. The spiritual life, the religious life, it's a search for authenticity, for things as they really are, not the way that we've imagined them, and that those who have imagined things tell us about them. It is seeing yourself as you are, naked and free in this moment, undefined by your clothing, your bank accounts, your ownerships. It's being what you are when you're alone, when your mind isn't carried away with its illusions of self, with its captivities to desire, with its longing for symbols, having no idea that the real thing lies lodged safely, eternally, ever within. First, believe in this world. Now, what an interesting thing. Normally when we think of believing in this world, we think, oh goodness, That's what gets you in trouble, is believing that this world is real. But he throws a little caveat here. He says, first, believe in this world, that there is meaning behind everything. And what is meaning behind everything? That's the beloved. That's the divine mother. That's the divine father, the divine friend, the divine lover. In everything, everywhere. That's what it is to see the world properly, to stop thinking that you're seeing cars and peoples and riches and poor. It's not what you're seeing. You're seeing God in his wholeness, in her wholeness. See it that way. Believe in this world in that way. And then all of the mundane things which rob your soul of its energy and joy suddenly become rich in the way they caress the soul, in the way that all of your suffering has meaning, in a way that all of your loneliness has a meaning. A beautiful poem by Hafiz, he says, don't let go of your loneliness too easily. Let it steep like a fine tea, that you might realize your need for the beloved and find him. This is what it is to believe in the world, to stop thinking that you're doing meaningless things, which is what materialism does to us. It makes a cubicle job the most insipid, dehumanizing, soul-stunning act in the world. Your life gets into a cycle and you're like, what? Really? Is this all? I'm just part of a cog in a machine being milked for money by every organization around me. They've counted the number of steps before I'll need a Starbucks. They've counted the number of steps before I need gas. They know how much to charge me for rent to make sure that I won't have more than $2 left at the end of the month. Yes, that's what capitalism does. You've actually let them call you a consumer, and have accepted that moniker as offensive and dehumanizing, profoundly rude. And yet we've accepted that name for ourselves, consumers. Give it up. This is the dirt and the filth that prevents you from seeing this richness which is you, this purity which is yours. Give up this nonsense of this world of bartering for everything, trying to get more than what you give, as if that's a principle to be followed, as if capitalism could ever give you what you need, because everyone around you is trying to get more from you than what they give in that environment. Stop this nonsense. Just stop it. Everything in the world is good, is holy, is beautiful. There's a mantra to repeat in every moment, because you'll have to constantly square your position in order to see a truth like that as being true in every moment with all the things that you're confronted with in the day. Everything in the world is good, is holy, and is beautiful, because it is divine, because it has deep meaning, because it is a manifestation of that oneness, the eternal self. If you see something evil, think that you are not understanding it in the right light. Change your perspective, move out of your personality, the things that you value that are making those things seem somehow not right. There's a meaning in that. And it means that you're standing in an untrue place. You can't see the meaning of the world. You can't see the love being manifested in all things always. It's one of the most difficult lessons to accept, let alone to see. And yet there it is from Vivekananda himself. Every moment is beautiful. Every moment is holy. Every moment is good. That's the challenge. And that's what is revealed by a pure heart in worship of the Divine Mother. Whenever we are tempted to say the world is going to the dogs, we ought to analyze ourselves and we shall find that we have lost the faculty of seeing things as they are. Interesting. Many of us think that it's insightful to see what's wrong in the world. Our egos are built on the idea that we can see what's wrong with everyone else around us. Our egos are built on the idea of how we can improve the world around us. Our egos are the trash and dust that need to be removed so that the self can shine in us, so that the self can love. So see the world as it is. Believe in it as being your beloved. Find deep meaning in it through that relationship by being continually aware in the moment you're in of the truth of these things. Let's gaze on the Star of Renunciation. This is the great lesson of the messenger, and another which is the basis of all religions. It's renunciation. How can you make the spirit pure? By renunciation. A rich man asked Jesus, "Good master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" So he's a young prince, very wealthy, coming to Jesus. What do I need to do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus said to him, "One thing you lack. Go on your way, sell everything you have, and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And then come, take up your cross, and follow me." The man was sad at this saying and went away grieved, for he had great possessions. And Swami Vivekananda points out, we are all more or less like that. That idea of giving up all of these things that we've educated ourselves for, that car that we've worked how many hours for, that house that we've worked so many hours for, that vacation we've been looking forward to for so long, that retirement nest egg that we've carefully crafted for ourselves over a lifetime. How do we possibly walk away from these things? How can we possibly renounce them? It would be impossible without discernment, without eyes that can see things as they are. That's the trade. That's what you'll get by giving up the delusion, by giving up the untrue things that you've invested in. So this renunciation, this is where we make the spirit pure, by walking away from the things once we've determined them to be untrue, and then walking away from the related things by knowing that they too will be untrue. That's renunciation. It's putting down the things that are burning you. It's setting down the thing that's cutting you. That's what renunciation is. It's not some grand act of sacrifice. Of course, if it's helpful, you can think of it that way. It's not, though. It's common sense. Renunciation is common sense in the spiritual world. It's putting down the things that haven't worked for you and being willing not to pick them up again because they didn't work the first time. They're not going to work the second time. You know? And the trick of the world is to think, oh, well, maybe it was the size. I just need a bigger one, like a television. My 10-inch television didn't make me happy. Maybe my 27-inch will make me happy. Oh, look, now there's a 65, a 95, and a 1,000-inch available. I better go get bigger ones because I'm not happy with the ones I have. And round it goes until the grave brings it to a close. That's a meaningless life, measured by televisions. What are you measuring your life with? Televisions is one option. Computers is another. Knowledge is another. Degrees, reputations, how many boards you sit on. What are you measuring your life with? And are they worthy of death? Are they worthy of having lived? The voice is ringing in our ears day and night. In the midst of our pleasures and joys, in the midst of worldly things, we think that we have forgotten everything else. Then comes a moment's pause, and the voice rings in our ears, "Give up all that you have and follow me. Whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life for my sake will find it. For whoever gives up his life for his sake finds life immortal." In the midst of all our weakness, there is a moment of pause, and the voice rings, "Give up all that you have, give it to the poor, and follow me." This is the one ideal he preaches, and this has been the ideal preached by every great prophet of the world. Renounce. What is meant by renunciation? That there is only one ideal in morality: unselfishness. Be selfless. The ideal is perfect unselfishness. When a man is struck on the right cheek, he turns to the left also. When a man's coat is carried off, he gives away his cloak also. Stop grasping for things that rot to make your life full. Stop collecting the things that decay to build your castle and to think that you will be happy. Renounce these flickerings of symbols, these names of God that vanish and come to light around us constantly, and find that which it's reflecting, that light of consciousness in you, that's steady in this moment, giving you an awareness of your own existence, giving you an awareness of a world constructed in your mind. Symbols, all of it. Symbols of what? Find out what is real. That which is not changing. Ramakrishna says to Shyambashu, "Give up this worldly talk altogether. Don't talk about anything, whatever, but God. If you see a worldly person coming near you, leave the place before he arrives. You have spent your whole life in the world. You have spent your whole life in the world. You have seen that it is all hollow. Isn't that so? Are you more happy now than you were yesterday? Not counting for moods, which also come and go. Are you building joy in your life? Are you building contentment in your life? Or have you just been kind of the same level of discontent and searching for your whole life? And even with all the things you've managed to collect around you, it's just more work to maintain them all now. Now that they're all bigger, they cost more. They require more of you. So your life has become more frantic, more of a concern. Now it's not just you and your education, now it's you and your wife. Oh, now it's not just you and your wife, it's you, your wife, and your 3 kids. Oh, and now it's their grandchildren. And now it's all their friends. And now it's relationships with all of them and keeping them all happy and making sure that they're all doing well and worrying about the... And round it goes. How are you measuring your life? With things that rot? With things that disappear? Or with that steady light within you that has always made you aware of all of them? That steady light in you that sings of what you're seeking, that reminds you of what you're constantly looking for, that you know of this need because its fulfillment is your nature, and by running through the senses you have forgotten your nature. You have forgotten how contented you were as a child, playing in the sandbox and owning nothing, where faith alone fed you and clothed you, where you relied on the charity of your own beloved to take care of you. God alone is substance, and everything else is illusory. God alone is real, that which doesn't change within you, that which has inhabited your body when it was 2, 4, 18, 24, 50, 75, And that you that will lay down on your deathbed to let go of the things that are not you and never were. That you, ever content. How do you know? Because it never needed anything, and all the work of your life didn't add a single thing to it or take a single thing from it. That you that came in through an apparent birth and now exits through an apparent death remains unchanged by the whole experience. It was a dance with the beloved. God alone is real, and all else is illusory. God alone is real, and all else only has a 2-day existence. What is there in the world? The world is like a pickled hog plum. One craves for it. But what is there in a hog plum? Only skin and pit. And if you eat it, you'll have colic. If you eat it, you're going to have to toil all the days of your life to pay for it. You want a bigger television? Fine. That's 40 extra hours of work. You want a bigger house? Fine. That's 40 years of extra work. You want a bigger car? That's fine. That's 6.5 months of extra work. What are you spending your life on? What are you measuring it by? And what do you have because of it? And the day you die, how many of your things will be piled in a dump truck and going to the dump? Having been the one who has done that over and over and over again in my life, it's part of my karma. How much stuff that you find in your home that is so precious until the moment you die, and then it's black trash bags and bins all around. Don't be offended. Don't be afraid. Laugh and learn. Life has a deeper meaning than the things that run through your fingers. You'll be remembered for your love. You'll be remembered for the light you gave to other people. If you renounced all that you owned and gave it to the poor, you would be remembered for that. For many years you've devoted yourself to various worldly things. You will not be able to think of God and meditate on Him in this confusion of the world. A little solitude is necessary for you. This is Ramakrishna talking to you directly. A little solitude is necessary for you. Let the noise of all the things you've accumulated and the demands that they make of you be set aside for a moment so that you can get some clarity of thinking, so that you can understand what it is to be alone without things and relationships hanging from every part of your body. Get some time alone with yourself. Find out, where is this gem that lies at the heart of this universe? Where is this presence of the divine that shines in absolute unfailing purity and love within me? You will not be able to think of God and meditate on Him in this confusion of the world. A little solitude is necessary for you. Otherwise, your mind will not be steady. Therefore, you must fix a place for meditation at least a half a mile away from your house. There you go, a very specific instruction from Thakur. You have to find a place at least a half a mile away from your home to get into solitude. So just going up to your room and hanging out with your favorite things is not what he's talking about. He's talking about getting into an environment where none of your familiar little keepsakes, little comforts and whatnots that you've learned to distract yourself from your problems is around. And don't take them with you. Don't take them with you. Go into solitude. Do it regularly. It should be a part of your life. If you are seeking these things, if you're interested in finding these things, it needs to be a part of your life. It needs to be part of what you are, part and parcel, built in to the fabric of your time. Your family should know. Oh, it's the third weekend of the month. Dad always goes away to his retreat. Mom always takes off 2 days and goes and takes care of herself. No, we've never been with her. We don't know what she does. But boy, is she happy when she comes back. She shines. Shyambashu remained silent for a few moments. He appeared absorbed in thought. The master, smiling, says, "Besides, all your teeth are gone." Oh, now he's getting personal. So he's saying to you, look at how old you're getting. Your face is falling, your hair, oh my gosh, look, you're coloring your hair. You're trying to hide your age from everybody else. Are you ashamed of growing old? How strange that is. Besides, your teeth are all gone, he says. Why should you bother so much about Durga Puja? Why? The nice way of saying, why are you working so hard for a television you can't see without, 4 pairs of glasses on these days? Why are you spending so much on that Lamborghini that you can't even get out of your wheelchair to drive in a few years? Why do you have such a big house whose stairs you won't be able to climb in 10 years? Are you not thinking? Are you not paying any attention whatsoever to what you're creating and what you're building around yourself? Spend some time in solitude and get it together. Think, pay attention, see life as it is, and stop pretending to be this marvelous little gem of personality that you've constructed out of rotting things over a long number of years and a lot of investment that makes it very difficult to let go of. Very difficult to renounce. Get some time alone and wake up to the reality of what you're building and what you've done with this marvelous thing called life. How high the trash has piled that you can't even see the wonder of the beloved in the moments that coddle you through every experience of this life. Your teeth are all gone. A man used to celebrate the Durga worship of Durga with the sacrifice of goats and other ceremonies. He continued the worship for many years and then stopped it. And a friend asked him, "Why don't you perform the Durga Puja anymore?" "Brother," he replied, "my teeth are all gone. I've lost the power to chew goat meat." That's the thing. One of my friends is an elder care person, and he took care of this very, very wealthy woman in San Francisco. She owned multiple homes, and actually the home he was taking care of her in was this giant mansion on Billionaires Row in Pacific Heights with the view of the entire bay. She had all of that: summer homes, vacation homes, big houses. Symphony Hall was named after her. But on her deathbed, do you know how big her world was? It was the size of a single bed. In this huge house, she couldn't leave her bedroom. In all the grandeur of her gardens, she couldn't leave the dirty sheets and piles of dirty clothes in her own bedroom. What good was her investment at that moment? What good are these things for you? And meditation on the effulgent form of the Divine Mother. Effulgent is to shine brightly, to radiate light from its own source. That is the Divine Mother in you, giving you this moment, giving you the awareness of this moment, giving you all that empowers all that you love in this moment. Think of her and sit in that light for just a moment. Be with that love. How do you know that she accepts you? Because you're here, because you're aware of yourself. How do you know that she loves? Because that love is your sustenance. That love is the thing that gives everything in your life meaning, no matter how you've interpreted it at this moment. How do you know you're accepted? Because you are. Your existence is the sign of Mother's nearness, never leaving you. That's how you know. She is the soul of the universe. She is immortal. She is the rulership, the all-knowing, the all-pervading, the protector of the universe, the eternal ruler. None else is there efficient to govern the world eternally. He who at the beginning of creation projected Brahma and who delivered the Vedas unto him Seeking liberation, I go for refuge unto that effulgent one, whose light turns the understanding toward the Atman. Spending time meditating on the effulgent light of love, the effulgent light of the Divine Mother. Until you know that everything you are and everything that you have has been given so freely and so wonderfully by love to you. To meditate on that love, and in there maybe you'll have the courage to let go of the dirt you've accumulated. And maybe you'll see the purity that's within you that you've forgotten. Maybe you'll find the kindness and the courage in you that you've forgotten. With that grace of our Divine Mother. In the introduction to the Divine Gospel, it says, the Divine Mother asked Sri Ramakrishna not to be lost in the featureless Absolute, but to remain in Bhavamukha, on the threshold of relative consciousness, the borderline between the Absolute and the relative. He was to keep himself at the sixth center of Tantra, from which he could see not only the glory of the seventh, but also the divine manifestations of the Kundalini in the lower centers. He gently oscillated back and forth across this dividing line. Ecstatic devotion to the Divine Mother alternated with a serene absorption in the ocean of absolute unity. I include that because what an ideal. This was unique to Ramakrishna, unique to his power. And it was a demonstration and a statement about what you really are. This oscillation between the ecstatic devotion to the Mother in this life, this experience of all the power of God, and alternating with a serene absorption in the ocean of absolute unity, where you will find your courage to let go, where you will find your courage to be strong and to be free, where you won't have to grab onto familiar things to find your strength, where you won't have to grab onto anything for that matter. Mother is your light of consciousness. You have heard about this tremendous power of faith. This is Thakur talking to Kedar. It is said in the Purana that Rama, who is God himself, the embodiment of absolute Brahman, had to build a bridge across the sea to Ceylon. But Hanuman, trusting in Rama's name, cleared the sea in one jump and reached the other side. He had no need of a bridge. Once a man was about to cross the sea. Vibhishana wrote Rama's name on a leaf and tied it in the corner of the man's wearing cloth and said to him, "Don't be afraid. Have faith and walk on this water. Faith leads to fearlessness. But look here. The moment you lose faith, you will be drowned." The man was walking easily on the water, and suddenly he had an intense desire to see what was tied to his cloth. He opened it and found only a leaf with the name of Rama on it. "What is this?" he thought. "Just the name of Rama." As soon as doubt entered his mind, he sank under the water. If a man has faith in God, then even if he has committed the most heinous sins, such as killing a cow or a Brahmin or a woman, he will certainly be saved through his faith. Let him only say to God, "O Lord, I will not repeat such an action," and he need not to be afraid of anything. So faith is the knot that's going to tie all of this together. And what is that faith? According to Vimalananda, a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, he says, faith has no concern with these passing shadows which vanish away before the tremendous facts of life. It stands unmoved. Find that thing in you which stands unmoved. In the innermost depth of the heart, there's your second clue, and as the one vital principle of all thought and all action. In the midst of the varying destinies of earthly existence, it is the intuitive perception of an eternal relation with something which, by its overwhelming prominence, throws into shade the ever-vanishing shows of the world and draws us away from it, from its diversified occupations, to a close touch with that permanent reality. Meditate on this divine effulgence of your beloved mother in faith and unwavering devotion. Let's see, are any questions here? No questions. All right. Be well.